So, chapter 10 is going to be, I'm just double checking that my microphone's recording because my last video, I don't think I had a mic record, did I? Check. Looks like I have sound. Okay. Chapter 10 is a continuation of what we did in Chapter 9. In Chapter 9, we learned about subsidiary ledgers. We had accounts payable subsidiary ledger where it said vendor and a vendor number, and we only had a credit balance. We went through and learned about two new journals, our purchases and our cash payments journal. Chapter 9, we're going to continue on, and we are going to add two more new journals, and then we're going to take and use something called a general journal. So 9 and 10 are very similar. It's just building upon each other. I know at the beginning of Chapter 10, we had lots of vocabulary words. I will say today we only have 5 because we're cutting down a little bit because we learned about corporations. So what are we going to do today? We are going to learn about the relationship between the accounts receivable ledger and its controlling account, as well as recording sales on an account using a sales journal. Now, when we talk about a sales journal, I want you to think about something. Okay, you heard that Kohl's is having an amazing sale, and it has whatever you want. Whatever it is in your mind you want to go buy, it has it right now. When you go to buy it, let's say that item is on sale for $100. Whether or not that's expensive or not, we're going to use that number. You go up and you buy that item, you go to checkout. How much money do you give Kohl's? Why more than 100? Sales tax. In our happy accounting land, in Unit 1, did we deal with sales tax? No. Now, if that item is $100, let's say that we went through and said that $5 of it went to sales tax. Does the business get to keep $5? That $5 for sales tax. They collect it from you as a customer, right? Who do they have to pay it to? The government, right? So we now have an account called sales tax payable. It's a liability. We owe that money. We have to keep track of the sale product and the sales tax separate. So we know that we're receiving $105 in cash. $100 of it is sales. $5 of it is sales tax. Does that make sense? Okay. Our service business before, we never had to deal with it. So let's go ahead and take a look at our subsidiary ledger. So the very first thing we have is selling price. Who's got it? Mackenzie's got selling price. The selling price is basically what we are going to go through and what the sale of an item for merchandise. So we said $100 for Kohl's, okay? Now, the amount of the business that is going to add to that is going to be called our markup. Jacob, you got markup for me? Because you're right there. So if I buy an item, if I tell you that cookies cost me 15 cents, no, 26 cents, I think that's how much they cost. What is our markup? Not 30. So cookies cost the Thunder Zone 26 cents. How much do we sell them for? 50 cents. So what's my markup? 24, right? The difference between the cost and what we do. Now, in that, you're like, wow, you make 24 cents a cookie, but we also have to factor in other things. The tissue paper, the gloves, the little thing that you put the cookies in, those all cost us money as well, so we have to make sure we cover that cost in our markup. Make sense? Okay. So the other one we have is accounts receivable ledger. Got that one up there. Okay, our accounts receivable ledger is a ledger containing all accounts for our charged customers. Now, last chapter we talked about accounts payable ledger. Now, congratulations, you're all customers of mine. Now, before, there was no way that I would know what all of my customers owed me. Now, I have a controlling account called accounts receivable. $20, that's not too much. Okay, thanks for the heads up. And Apple is up $8. Okay. Dow is up 643 points right now. That's pretty good. But my controlling account is called accounts receivable, and now each one of you are customers of mine, and I would be able to look under each one of you in my subsidiary ledger to say that Caitlin owes me $7. Ethan owes me $100. Lillian, you owe me $200. So individually, I look in the subsidiary ledger, but my controlling account, it would go through and list that all customers owe me $750 total. Okay, so very similar to what we did for accounts payable. So this is how it flows. We have over here, this is our subsidiary ledger account. They're yellow. And I want you to notice the account number. Okay, they start with 1, just like assets start with a 1. And they're 3 digits. So a 3-digit account number that starts with a 1 is going to tell you that it's the accounts receivable subsidiary ledger. Then you will notice that the order that they are listed in, we go 110 to 160. They are alphabetical, right? That would make the most sense for you to find customer names. You're going to want to make sure that they are listed alphabetically. So individually, they're all listed there. The total amount that it is listed right here, which equals the controlling account, accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is an asset, is on the left-hand side of the accounting equation, so its normal balance is a debit. So debits will increase all of those accounts, and credits will decrease that account. So here's our accounts receivable subsidiary ledger form. You will notice that this is blue. Right here, it does not say account number. It says customer number. Notice here it does not say account title. It says customer. Chapter 9, it said vendor and vendor number. Okay, so vendors is going to be accounts payable. Customers are going to be accounts receivable. Moving down where we put our numbers, you'll notice we have our date column. Looks exactly the same. We have an item column. Post-reference, notice I have debit, credit. Now, this is for accounts receivable, so you'll notice the only balance column we have is debit. Compare that to our normal general ledger. We have our debit and our credit balance. And this is, again, our account for accounts receivable, which is an asset. And we know it's an asset because it starts with a 1. Liabilities start with a 2. Remember, that will help you. Assets have a debit normal balance. Liabilities have a credit. Okay? Okay, my next one we have here is sales tax. Who's got that one? Right here. Got sales tax. We talked about sales tax. Businesses want, the government wants businesses to collect sales tax because it's much easier to collect it from the business than it would be as you as a consumer. Because if the government said, hey, Leon, you need to tell me how much you bought this year, and at the end of the year you need to pay me sales tax, how would that go over? If they did that to every consumer, every person, would that work? No. You would lose track and be like, no. So they're putting it on the business, and the business has to keep track of sales tax. My question to you, how much sales tax does the Thunder Zone have to pay? Why? We are. Why? We are part of the school. How is the school funded? With taxes. So it doesn't make sense for us to pay taxes to pay ourselves. Does that think about it from that perspective? So when the Thunder Zone buys items, we do not pay tax on them if the Thunder Zone is going to go through and use them. Okay. Same thing for FBLA. FBLA is part of the school. They don't have to pay sales tax as well. So we have to do sometimes a little bit different work. We have to have something called a tax-exempt number. So in order for me to go to a business to say, oh, I don't pay sales tax on it, I have to have proof of it. You just can't say, I don't pay sales tax. Okay. Now, for FBLA, I do have a Sam's Club card, and that Sam's Club card is set up through the school, and they know if I buy something for FBLA, I just say these items are tax exempt, and then it's automatically set up on that. Same thing down at Don's. At the Thunder Zone, FBLA, or any organization here at school, when they go down and buy items there, if I say we're charging on account to FBLA, they know, oh, the school is tax exempt and it's taking off because we had that agreement before. So we have to know about the tax that's being collected and the fact that some businesses don't have to pay sales tax. So we know a school is one. Can we think of another organization that would not have to pay sales tax? In Minnesota, if you buy clothes, you do not pay sales tax on clothes in Minnesota. So there are different states that have different rules and regulations. So, for example, in the state of Florida, there is no income tax. What do I mean by that? Anyone in here have a job? On your paycheck, it says federal tax withheld and state tax withheld, right? That is your state income tax. In Florida, nobody pays income tax. But what do they do then otherwise? They have other taxes that are more expensive to recoup that cost. Okay, so it's a little bit of give and take on that. And because income tax there is not taxed, a lot of times people retire to Florida and live down there because then their earnings, guess what, are not taxable by the state government, where it would be in Wisconsin. So it's a little bit of like legal advice when people get older. Now, could that change in 5 years? Yes, it's totally up to them. But we do have to go through and do sales tax. One we know is a school. Another example of one that would not pay tax would most likely be a church. What's that? Okay. So that's an example, and it'll talk about that in the book. Now, here's our new journal. Isn't it pretty? It's got columns for numbers. They line up. There's spots for cents and dates. Oh, I love it. It makes my heart happy. So when we look here on the top, we can see it says sales journal, and then it says page right here. Guess what goes here? A number. I know you're shocked by that. Date column. One for the month, one for the day. What do you think goes here? Aha. Notice it says debited. Okay, so anything you put here must be debited. Now, I have 3 columns. Okay, be aware of this. I have had students put the numbers in the wrong column, and then it gets it all marked wrong. Okay, so the very first thing we have here is accounts receivable. Notice it's listed as a debit. Then I have sales, and then I have sales tax payable. Now, this is how I would use this journal. Okay, I went through, let's say I'm Kohl's, and I sold on an account to Caitlin. Caitlin, you buy from me, so I sold merchandise on an account to Caitlin, $150. Product or sales was $120, sales tax was $30. So I have 3 numbers in there, $150, $130, and then $20, right? So I have to break those into the correct columns. The biggest thing that you need to realize is this column right here for accounts receivable, this has to be the total amount that Caitlin has to pay me. And what do I expect from Caitlin? How much money? Remember? 150? Okay, so that has to go here. Now, before, I used to write accounts receivable Caitlin. Now, guess what? I don't write accounts receivable. We're going to use that accounts receivable column. So it's going to be used just a little bit differently. This is an example of a sales invoice. When I look at this sales invoice, I know it's coming from 3 green products, and I'm selling on an account to Wells Apartment. Okay. It is sales invoice number 498 with the date of November 4th. Customer ID is 160, and we have the terms of 210 and 30. That sounds familiar. I think Mrs. Grassel talked about that in Chapter 10. That means you get a 2% discount if you pay in how many days? 10 days. If I don't pay in 10 days, when do I have to pay it by? 30. So Wells Apartment can pay me in 10 days, and they can get a 2% discount. But the biggest thing I need you to realize is the total value of the product that I sold to Wells Apartment is $454.50. Sales tax of $27.27, and then I'm going to have my accounts receivable of $481.77. And here it shows the individual items. This is what a business is going to look at every time when it journalizes transactions. No one is ever going to take this and then write, sold merchandise on an account to Wells Apartment, $481.77, sales of $454.50, sales tax of $27.27. Why take the time? You would have to interpret that. That's why I like the using source documents assignment so much, because that is truly what people look at. So how do we journalize this? We know that accounts receivable is going to be debited $481.77. Accounts receivable, sales is going to be credited, 454, and sales tax payable is going to be credited. Now, we know sales tax payable is a liability because anytime we see this word payable, it should go like really loud in your head. Liability, liability, liability. Credit, normal balance. We owe the government this amount of money. So to journalize this, this is very straightforward, but this one is really easy to mix up these two numbers. Sometimes I've seen students put the 454 here and the 481 there. It's the right numbers, but in the wrong spots, and your debits and credits won't equal. Or I've had people flip-flop sales and sales tax. So just be aware of which one is the correct one, because once you start filling it in, it's easy to go from there. So the total amount owed, the value of our sales, and the value of our sales tax. That's section 10-1. You ready to try it? Mm-hmm. Two things, two ways. When we first start, it's going to probably calculate it for us. It'll say sales tax of $6.24. Later on the Mastery and Challenge problems, it's most likely going to say sales tax is 4.5%, and then you need to know to multiply that across. Do it? Mm-hmm. That would be something a little bit different. That's much more complicated accounting. We talked about that later. Okay? But that's a good one, because basically you're offering a sales discount is what that is. Because you can't ring up Kohl's cash the same way you ring up cash. It would not work accounting financially wise. All right, so I have worked together 10-1 turned on here. So we're going to go through, it says Classic Appliance uses an accounts receivable ledger. On the blank ledger above, the locations have identified with numbers. To open a new customer account, indicate the location of each of the following items. The customer is Venice Cafe, the account number is 120, and the balance on September 1st of the current year is $390.34. So when we go through and look at the word balance, where do we think we'd put the word balance? Under what letter? I'm sorry, I just didn't hear you. D, I agree. /blank. Well, I'll have to put a date on there, so that is a good guess. I like that one. Post reference? Well, actually, we'll put a check mark in the post reference. F and G? I don't think we can choose both of them, though, can we? Oh, there's two blanks? Okay, let's do F first, and we'll do the second zero blank as G. We'll see if they'll mark it wrong for us. Thanks for noticing that. Now, September 1, where does that one go? That's for sure the date. We'll do that one as letter C. Where does the word Venice Cafe go? A. Check mark, I kind of already gave you that as a clue to remember. E for elephant, as in our post reference. Now, 390.34, they said right here in our directions is our balance. So we're going to have to put that 390.34 in H. And then account number 120 should go right back up on top where our account number is for B. Okay, so that's just taking a look at our subsidiary ledger. Now we're going to take a look at using the current year, journalizing the following transactions on page 9 of the sales journal for Classic Appliance. The sales invoice documents is abbreviated as S. Classic Appliances operates in a state with 6% sales tax. No S is needed in the sales column of the sales journal. So we have here September 2nd. Sold merchandise on an account to Lenny Stanford, $1,600 plus sales tax, S221. So here we go. Page, notice, did they give us the amount of the sales tax? No, we have to do something called math. Woo! First thing let's get our date on there. It's going to be September 2nd. What's my account debited for September 2nd? Lenny Stanford, if I can spell. Now, for my sales number, I'm not going to put in S221, but I will put in 221. I just don't need to put the S in because the only thing that'll go here is going to be my sales invoice. Now, 1,600 goes where? What do we think, Morgan? What column? It goes one of those three. You are correct. The 1,600 is the value of the product that we sold to Lenny Stanford. So 1,600 is going to go in my sales column. I need to, using my handy dandy calculator, take 1,600 and I need to multiply that by 6%. So I'm going to multiply that times that by 0.06. And then it gives me sales tax of how much? 96. I agree. That's what I got mathematically. So I'm going to put sales tax of 96. So I have to do something again called math again. And I'm going to take 1,600 plus 69. That's going to give me $1,696. Right? Add the two together. Add sales. You have 2 credit columns and 1 debit. So you add your 2 credits to get your debit. So the total amount that Lenny owes us is $1,696. Now, September 6th, I'm on sales on an account to Washington City Schools, $680. Washington City Schools is exempt for sales tax. S222. So I'm going to put in Washington City Schools, sales invoice 222, and I'm only going to use 2 columns, and I'm going to use 680 in accounts receivable and 680 in sales, and then I'm going to leave sales tax payable blank. The 7th, sold merchandise on an account, the Venice Cafe, sales invoice 223. Product is worth $2,560. That's going to go under my sales credit column for $2,560. Calculator, 2,560 times 0.06. So I have sales tax of $153.60. Add the two together, and I have total accounts receivable of $2,713.60. Date of the 15th. Sold merchandise on account to Washington City Schools. What do we know about Washington City Schools? Tax exempt. So it didn't tell you that again because they expect you what? To remember something that's 2 lines above what you just did. Sales invoice again is 224. So I'm going to go ahead and put in there 1,849. You can go ahead and try that on your own. Very similar on that one. And then for tomorrow, I would like you to please read section 10-1 as well as 10-2. Application problem 10-1 is also turned on for you. There are some other assignments. I do believe I have them due Friday or maybe tomorrow night, just as review, true and false, just to kind of go over those questions. I strongly suggest that you take a look at them. It doesn't take you very long to get them completed right within MindTap. So we can see application problem 10-1 is due tomorrow. That one says randomized, so you get 3 attempts at that one. Accounting in the Real World, I would like you to read that. There's a terms review 10-1 that is due tomorrow at 11, due today at 11 p.m. And Audit Your Understanding, this is all due tomorrow, Thursday at 11 p.m. Those are marked as practice. Those are great ways for you to reinforce what you have learned within section 10-1. You will find that your reading materials is also out there, so make sure you get that covered too.